Hey everybody, it's your boy, and today's video is going to be about, well, the right wing, or rather, our small section of it online, because, let's be honest, it's not going to be about the rest of the right. I've done enough videos on that to last a lifetime. However, it will be about this small section because, let's just say, it's been having a lot of problems recently in regards to personnel, about doing things. There's been several splits, not just down the middle, but side to side and God knows where else. And also it seems to be having delusions of grandeur, and all of that needs addressing because, let's just say, it's getting really annoying and it needs to be addressed. I have to talk about this. I can't keep ignoring it. Now, don't worry, not every problem that I'll be discussing is the fault of everybody. It'll only be certain individuals, but even then I won't be discussing too many names on here, only the ones that really deserve to be called out. Most of the people in our little sphere are doing really well, and I can't fault them for doing what little they can do in the current situation that we're in, and I applaud you all. Like, honestly, you're doing good jobs, and please do continue doing that. I really do appreciate it. You're actually trying to do something. Like Don the Pleb, he's trying to do something. He's been going on about tactics for years. British Knight, Harry Ann, Scrump and DG have been doing some good work in real life as well. Like, there are people who are doing things. Although, I will have to say, some of you are not doing such good things. Now first let's talk about personnel. We've been attracting too many of the wrong kinds of people, and it's not anything really to do with ideology, that is really a separate thing in itself, but just their personalities, how they interact with people, what they do, etc, etc. Look, you only have to look at what Jay Greenriver has been exposed doing to see where the problem really lies. It's these types of people that we've been attracting for years. This guy has been around for years, and he has been constantly gossiping, drama whoring, and trying to manipulate little communities so that the people that he doesn't like are removed from his space, from AA space, regardless of what AA or anybody else will think. Why does he get rid of them? Who knows why he wants to get rid of them? All I know is that he doesn't like them. It could be ideological reasons. It could be that he wants to be the top dog. He wants to be the top lap dog, really, let's be honest, with AA. And anybody who's too close to AA that he knows he can manipulate against, he'll manipulate against. But he's not the only one who's doing it. There are people working with him to manipulate against such people. That's why the deep law went to shit, because of people like him. Do we really want those people coming into this little sphere more and more, creating ever more problems and ever more drama? Sure, we're never going to get rid of them, all of them anyway. There'll always be those types of people. I mean, that's natural, but you can limit the number. We can limit them just a few individuals that we can ignore. But no, instead it seems like because they think the right way, for the most part, that they must be tolerated. And because they do an awful lot of work for other people that they don't have time to do, that they should stick around, even when they've been known to be causing far more issues than they're actually worth. If most of the people in this so-called community had any sense, these people would be thrown out the door. But unfortunately, I don't run these people's lives. I don't tell them what to do. So we're stuck with these people until they are actually hounded out as the idiots and trouble causers that they actually are. And if these people, because it's really in that tiny little corner of our corner who like to consider themselves to be vanguards and people who are going to be pushing the envelope, pushing the Overton window further to where we want it to be, well, you got to get your house in order. Because if you don't get your house in order, how can you even begin to agitate, to organise? You're disorganised, you're fighting each other. If you had any sense, you would stop all of that. You would get rid of Jay Green, because not only does he cause those problems, but ideologically he supports things like pederasty, and he says that on Twitter. That's not slander. We have evidence from the horse's mouth that shows that he does. Do you really want people like that on your side when you're criticising the left for their own nonce-loving? I think you may want to look in your own little corner and see what's going on there. Surely, right? But again, these are the vanguards. These are the people that are going to be leading the revolution, because it's going to be a revolution, man. It's any time now. We just got to wait for the whole thing to collapse, and eventually people like Jay Green will rise from the ashes and take over, I guess. Not while he's busy manipulating and fighting people on his apparent side because he don't like them or for whatever reason. And he's not alone. He's not the only person doing it. In fact, he's probably working with other people. Right now, he's probably finding a new target that isn't Don the Pleb, and it's going to keep happening until he's kicked out. Speaking of revolutions, why is it that people just want to wait until things collapse in order to go about setting up their own utopia? Let's get one thing out of the way. This shit ain't going to collapse anytime soon. I hate to break it to you guys. The accelerationists, whether they be anarchists or not, left or right, have been waiting for the entire state apparatus to collapse for decades, and it's not showing any sign of going down anytime soon. Sure, there will be things that will break. There will be institutions that don't work properly. In fact, we've been seeing that for the past couple of decades, but the actual structure that holds everything together is very safe and sound, and in fact is only getting bigger. Are any of these people actually going to think of ways to accelerate this collapse, to precipitate the collapse? No, they just, to me, it seems like they don't really have any ideas about what they want to do. They just want to wait for this collapse, and then they assume that automatically once the state collapses and society is in chaos and civilization has crumbled, that they will somehow magically just become the leaders of the new free world. First off, there's going to be other factions who may be similar to you or may be completely different to you, who will also be waiting for this collapse and will be waiting to become the next leaders of the free world, to enact their own utopia. And what are you going to do when these people see you also trying to do the exact same thing? Are you going to try and coexist peacefully when you're actually trying to become the new elite? Are you going to fight them? Are you prepared for that? Have you even thought about that perhaps this collapse will not be what you think it's going to be if it happens, which it won't? And why are you waiting for a collapse? Why are you trying to wait for some kind of revolution that's not going to happen when there's not even any conditions for a revolution? What is there that you could possibly use as a justification? How do you go about creating revolutionaries in the first place anyway? You're going to just have people online learn about all these esoteric philosophies that have no real practice in real life, that are only just ideas. At the very least, libertarianism has had its ideas tested to some degree during the 17 to 1800s and early 1900s. How are you going to go about creating this revolution? Because if you can't wait for the collapse, then you're going to have to build one up. And, I hear Lenin being bandied around as an example of how you go about creating a revolution, but the problem is, he didn't create the revolution. He jumped on board the revolution. People forget that the Germans gave him a load of money and weapons, sent him on a train down to Russia to take over the Menshevik revolution. He didn't start that. Kerensky did. And so far, I don't see a revolution that's happening that you can jump on and hijack. In fact, I don't even see people having the tools in order to do so. I don't see people gathering weapons and ammunition. I don't see people trying to figure out tactics and ideas. I just see people going on about esoteric nonsense. None of this shit has any practical use whatsoever. Sure, it's philosophically useful to expand your horizons and things like that, and that's good, I don't mind that, but there's no practical use for them. It's one thing believing these things and wanting this vision, but how do you go about enacting that vision? How do you make it a reality? None of you have really thought about it, and the one person who I know of in this little sphere who has tried to come up with ideas has been, ignored, and that's Don the Pleb. And you know what? It's great to do in real life stuff like Nomos and Shieldings, I don't know how you pronounce it, but there needs to be something more to them. Like, there needs to be actual networking going on. There needs to be not just having drinks and speeches. It's good to build the community up, which is fine. It gets us together and it gets us to know each other. If nothing tangible happens after these and they're just nice little get-togethers where nothing happens, then I hate to say it, but the establishment will not be scared. They will just see it as a small little group of people who are a bit weird talking to each other, and they're not actually any serious threat. Until Antifa banged on the door and tried to get in, you're not a threat. And another thing is that we are not the whole right. We're like barely 0.1% of it, if that. Because I keep seeing over and over again, whenever there's drama, whenever there's stuff that's going on, that like some person is being accused of trying to split the right, trying to cause trouble in the right, trying to move the right to another direction, and God knows what else. I have to stop and think, what do you mean, the right? What do you mean? Like you're only one little part of it. Maybe in your little community, you're trying to do that kind of thing, maybe in your little group of friends, maybe in your wider space, these things are happening. But in the wider world, in the wider mainstream, or even in other places that we don't even know about, that are considered dissident or a bit on the edge, they don't even know anything about you. Some of them might know other people, but they don't know you. And it's not just the esoteric NRXs that fall for that kind of stuff. A lot of the so-called Tory boys and classical liberals fall for it too. They think that all of the stuff that's happening is in their little sphere, and they're really getting tunnel visioned and stressed over something that's happening in a very tiny corner of Twitter or on Discord or on any other social media platform. Like, mate, most of the stuff that's going on in this little sphere is unknown. And the sooner you realise that, the sooner you can get a little bit of humility and realise that the picture is bigger, that you are just a small cog in a wider event in human history. And the sooner you guys realise that, the sooner you can, well, get a better idea of what's going on and act accordingly. Because until you realise that most of this is only happening in a little tiny sphere, what can I do? If you think that you're so important, that your drama and stuff that goes on in your friends' lives, and your personal lives, and your little community's lives is so important that it has philosophical and practical effects on the wider political sphere, then I don't know what to say, you're deluded. By the way, what's considered based has essentially been destroyed, because literally anything that's common sense is deemed as based. Well, I'm sorry, but calling a woman is not based, it's common sense. Saying that communism is bad is not based, it's common sense. Saying that, I don't know, that modernity is bad is not based, it's just one, an opinion, and two, certain criticisms of modernity are not based because, well, they're common sense. What is really based is trying to come up with solutions, trying to come up with ideas that we haven't really thought about before, that we haven't even considered, and just, I don't know, just a certain level of insight that you can analyse a situation and say, this is happening because of that. Look at Freedom Alternative's entire YouTube channel. That is based, because he'll come up with analyses that you would not even expect, just completely from left field, because, well, he's tuned in not just philosophically, but practically and tactically too. He has an almost three-dimensional view of things. Oh, and another thing, finally, I think we'll end it here soon because I've been going on for like 20 minutes now. Stop peddling black pills. Not only are you doing this, in fact, most of you are not doing this, but you follow certain people who do. In fact, that's all they ever do. They peddle black pills. And it's demoralising. These people think that all they're doing is telling you as it is. They're telling you the reality of a situation. And yes, they are doing that to a certain extent, but they're doing that with either two express purposes. Either one, they're doing it because they want to give you a reality check, which is fair enough, and then accidentally blackpilling you, but others are doing that on purpose to demoralise you, because then immediately they'll say, this is the reality of the situation, it ain't going to change, there's nothing you can do, give up now, it's useless, it's pointless, you're not going to do anything. Those people need to be thrown out of helicopters because they are doing nothing. They are trying to stop you from doing what you could be doing to actually, make things better, to achieve your vision, to achieve your goal, whether that be from the lowest local level to the highest. And the reason why they want to keep you down and they want to keep things as they are and not fix anything is because they make a lot of money out of it. Some of them must legitimately think that nothing can be done. Well, ignore those people. In fact, don't even listen to them, because what use are they if they have no use for themselves? They might as well just stop doing commentary, stop doing activism, or they don't do it anyway, and just leave because they're useless. Why would you support useless people? And as for the grifters, well, it's simple. Just like how the Democrats need to keep certain demographics of people locked into poverty so that they can vote for them, it's the same thing with these people. They want you guys demoralised constantly in a state of inactivity so that nothing changes. And if nothing changes, they have more stuff to moan about, to complain about, and more money, because more people will be coming to them looking for a vent, as opposed to looking to them for advice in order to change things. Because if things change, they lose their money. They lose their money, well, they're going to have to get a new job, aren't they? The reality of a situation is not actually blackpilling. It's just the reality. It is what it is. what are you going to do about it? What, you're just going to stand there and moan and say, oh, it's helpless, oh, there's nothing I can do, oh. Well, I hate to say it, but we don't need people like that. It's infuriating, it's not blackpilling to live in a situation. What's blackpilling is when you give up and do nothing about it because you think nothing is worthwhile. And if you truly think it's worthwhile, if you really want to save it, well, get off your asses and start doing things. Just planting seeds of doubt in people's minds is enough. That's as little as it takes. I've said it before, I've said it again. You've all seen my videos where I've given you solutions. You've even seen me do speeches on it. I don't need to tell you any more than what I've already said before because I'll be treading old ground. But there are things you can do. There are whole YouTube channels that can tell you what to do. There are books that can tell you what to do. For God's sake, somebody once read a history book on Twitter and got blackpilled, and that stuff happened 1,000 years ago. Be strong. Stop being pathetic. Because it really is. A lot of you are pathetic and you need to either grow up and man up or woman up or become stronger and actually start doing stuff and realise that, look, it won't change. It won't accelerate and end if you don't actively try to do so. Waiting around, hoping that things will change because history moves, well, that's not going to do anything because the people who are in charge are the ones in charge who are moving things along. Now, they don't have a grand master plan, which is another thing. People think there's some grand master plan. There isn't. Certain people have plans, yeah, but a lot of them aren't bright enough to put it into action. Or at least when they do put it in action, in reality, it doesn't really pan out the way they think it pans out. It just never does. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. Some of the people we're fighting are smart, most of them are not. Once you realise there's no plan, it's much easier to fight these people, because then you can start thinking, well, okay, these people want this. Well, this is how we counteract that. And because they're stupid, it's easier to deal with them. Obviously, the smarter people will be much tougher to take down, but it's doable. But as long as those people are in power, things aren't going to improve for us. They're going to get worse, because they're the ones who will be, pushing the levers, so to speak. And because most of them are stupid, they're going to make grievous mistakes and errors that will cost all of us. And you really don't want that, do you? You want to get those people out. What do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet. I think I'll leave it there, guys. It's gone on for far too long. This has been an airing of grievances. I could have said more, really, but at the end of the day, most of this will be ignored. I mean, I know that. And if it doesn't get ignored, it'll be dismissed. Some of you will like it. Some of you won't like what I have to say, but it is what it is, and if you don't like it, stuff it. See you later, guys.